me shut this up. It'll get me background noise. Should be better. How's everybody doing? Hope you guys are doing well as usual. Start live streams off the same way. Wishing you guys all the best. Why not? Let's copy this link. Let's throw it on Twitter and see if anyone I'm familiar with wants to come and watch. Rui coming to Vancouver in August next month. Very nice. You got a death wish with the heat or something? Any particular reason, or just a fun little vacation? Wait for a few people to filter in here now that I've thrown it out on Twitter. See if anyone hops on, and then I will get to it. Flying all the way from Toronto. That's a decent little flight. 6.5 hours. Coast to coast. They're doing a Traders for a Cause event in Toronto. When is that? Let's see. Traders for a Cause, Toronto, August 13th. Are you leaving when they're coming over there? August 13th, Toronto, Traders for a Cause. So, without further ado, let's hop into what the title says. Let's go over GoPro, DNUT, all the meme name 2.0, and let's make some sense out of this action. Get prepared for tomorrow and look to nail it. A big day for me today. Executed very well. Kept the I don't even want to say losses. It wasn't really a ton. Everything was working. Start off with open because I was swinging this one from 293's area into this little bounce. And I was overnight that. We got this little flush here after 7 a.m. and it was holding up into open. So I started covering here into the 250s, left on a few. We pulled back into that 230, which was the goal. And then I flipped, long right here as we got this double bottom, lower high break right there through the 240s. So I got long and was looking for high days and into that 280 to 3 range. Just didn't come. Hard crack, lower highs. So took that position off. I rebought right into close because it pulled back into 2. If you recall, the anticipated range on that backside fade was into that 230 to 2 range. I'm not trying to pick bottoms. In an ideal world, this fades as much as it wants to, because then the backside bounce has that much more room to get going. So I'm not looking to pick bottoms just because I thought 2 could bottom, but now we're starting to base ABCD, and a close over VWAP looks pretty good to me. So I got long with a starter position, risking kind of verse 2, not really a hard stop. I'm not sized to the gills on it just yet. Ideally, so far we're gapping up. But ideally, weak opens, maybe 220, 230 flush, and then get that opening range break and look for a pop back up into 3. And then that pop into 3, I think, could be another short trade for a swing back lower, but we will see. So that was the trade and plan moving forward on that one. Donut, we got that gap up into 6 that I was looking for. 3 to 6 hits that 100% move. And the opening print was the high. It never saw higher. I was not looking to pick tops, but in the past, if you remember, when they just fail right off open, I have a hard time chasing it. But I'm just trying to work on that and improve after seeing mistakes and doing these little reviews. And that was one of my mistakes. So we got this pull. I start to short, risk on high a day. This little wick and save, I covered a third, covered another third, rescaled back to full and moved risk towards VWAP, covered along the way. Rescaled pops, looking for this 580 failed follow through level. It wasn't breaking down, so I covered it all, hit it right here, covered into the flush, rescaled pops, covered along the way. This one, really good trader. I think it might have been top trade of the day. Just with the tightness that you could get in the risk reward, you were able to really size into this. GoPro, this one unfortunately was not the main winner for me today, and I will go over it, but was the main watch coming into today, 80 cents up to 240. Was gapping up and speeding up here. I woke up fairly early, around 2:30 my time, and was looking to take advantage of this after hours rip. A lot of times it retests those levels and then it fades off. You get a little pop out the open. You don't usually get this kind of move in pre-market, so I was leaning on this using after hours levels as a guide, and took a 1 hour loss through those highs. And then I was patient. Plan was to wait till the open until we start to speed up. We go from 2 to 260 in the matter of 10 minutes. That's a fast enough move if I've ever seen one. So short, add, cover right into prior lows, reshort a pop, risking versus pre-market highs. Covered that one right before close. Didn't want to hold it into the open. And then there we go. We get that pull right off open. And same kind of thing. I'm not waiting for pops, as that was my mistake on a bunch of other names. But because I am chasing into weakness, I am a bit quicker on the cover side. So I'm short, and then cover fully. And then right here, I start to add small, very small, add small, cover. And then this is my scale. Add one more time, covered about a third. It looked like it saved right there. You can see the volume, low a day break. It should have stayed heavy. So I sized right back out. Looked like I was wicked out with these little top wicks here. Rescaled in, looks like it wanted to roll over and then saved. So this one I gave back a little bit when I rescaled and had to cover through here. I was already down 1R. I made it all back plus some right on this trade from 260 to 190. But right here, this one was the one that I went back to flat, slightly red on the name right here, because we got this VWAP test and then it pulled back right into those levels. So I scaled full size versus this prior high, and I got stopped out with another full stop. So it was fairly frustrating. But given that I made this little bit of cushion, I wasn't down. I was down a little bit, but nothing too crazy. But I was looking to reattack. I stuck around a bit later today, given the magnitude of these opportunities, and I started to short once these higher lows gave way. And then this candle right here was all the conviction I needed, where we got that little swipe test and immediate slam. So I short, covered right into the low a day crack, and then it stayed heavy. So I scaled and then was patient into those 150 covers. So really nice trade there. Always can do better. Like I went over yesterday, it's it's one of those things that you can have a banner day. This was the best day of the month for me, and it's never good enough with trading. The red days suck, and then the days that you do well, you always feel like you could have done better. So a bit unfortunate the way trading works, but really nice trade there. Iova is the next one on the list, but I took a short right into close with the same kind of idea as open, but this is still front side. It shows no reason for me to be short it, so I covered it right away and took it off for a small scratch. Kirk, Was looking for this one, but the volume just didn't really come in. We got that gap up parabolic through 220s, 120 to 220. It was looking pretty good. The exhaustion gap. We got the morning shove, hard crack, lower highs, VWAP acting heavy. The spread here was 203 to 210, so I just hit the bid a couple times. And right here, I broke low a day. The bids that were there at the hole number 2, I just took them and covered immediately because obviously it was oversized versus a proper risk taking out the bids. And then just had to use many minutes to work out of that position so that I don't cause one of these candles. Exhaust back versus VWAP, can't get over 210, start to round, looking for that red move, cover, covered the last batch, and goal was 170, but this thing was just so barcodey and illiquid, it just wasn't worth it for me to keep battling it. Like I was having to be very strategic with my entries and covers and careful because it's not as liquid as a bunch of these other names. The odds on it fading back to that 170 level on the daily was fairly high odds, but just how it was going to get there was a bit tougher. So that was a little another one. Open I went over already. I covered that overnight and tried it long once, so took a little loss there. That was the only loss of the day. IOVA, I barely even call it a loss because I covered it immediately, but this one was the only trade that didn't work. RGC, covered this one a bit early. It was the same kind of setup as over here, where you get that parabolic, looking for it to fail. Toxic dilutive name. It parabolic. You get the exhaustive volume. I short the next lower high with risk on highs a day. And it's just chopping sideways. Once it pulled here, I was like, it probably should die, but it just wasn't. I would have gotten super impatient around here as it started to build back over VWAP. So I don't hate this little scalp out cover. Obviously ended up working, sticking to risk. But in the event this swipes, I likely get slippage through highs a day. So took the little gain there and moved on. And then when... bit of a lesson here to be learned. This one is Wendy's. And it was moving kind of in sympathy to Kohl's from yesterday. So people were looking for something like this to happen. Goes 10 to 21 in pre-market. So people are looking for Wendy's to do the same thing. Comes from the same price range at 10. They're looking for 21. And as we go over, typically as people look from the next to the next to the next, the time frames on those trades playing out start to shrink. So I short on a prior 2-minute bar low, risk versus highs. We get this nice slam candle. I'm covering. The mistake here was this 12 failed fall through level, never reclaimed, and I never rescaled that trade for the KSS sympathy trade. Obviously, I was focused on DNUT and GPRO and Open and Kirk and all those other names, so I'm not kicking myself over it. But there was another trade and rescale opportunity right in here to cover the flush like I did. Don't hate this, but then once it stays heavy at 12, this is definitely a rescale spot for another buck a share lower. So those are all the trades from today. Feel free to rewind and go rewatch that. But GPRO and DNUT were definitely the standouts. And like you can see here, GPRO goes 1, 2, 3, 4 days, that gap up. Or if you look at Open, where it's going 1, 2, 3, 4 days gap up, this one holds. So everybody who is looking at GPRO is thinking this gap up should hold. And that was the reason for all of these scale spots over here, because once it pulls, it could hold. There's nothing saying that I have to be right, and that's why I'm protecting on these covers. But once it proves that it's not holding, all those longs that are looking for the open repeat are on the wrong side. Once it's under these 180s, 190s, that's the reason for this last ad. And everybody's underwater. Look at all the volume on this thing up here, 2+. There's just no way that this thing is getting back over it. There is a world, this hasn't gone red yet. DNUT, I don't think Yeah, it went red in after hours, so it hadn't gone red yet. GoPro hasn't gone red yet, so there is a world where this is an overnight short and it probably gaps down 10 to 15%. I was looking for 180s minimum on this bounce after the covers to rescale for a swing, and it just didn't quite get there. So this is a bit too extended from VWAP for me that we could get a cover. Maybe look for something like open, where early in pre-market you get that little 3 shove before it fizzles out. So maybe early in pre-market, get a shove back up into looking left. The volume is so big on this. There's so many people stuck underwater, and clearly this meme trend has had some difficulty, to say the least. So pops up into this one, into 180s to 2 area. I will look to lean this for an actual first red day. There's still meat on the bone. I think this could get back down to these low ones, 1 to 120 area. Retrace that entire move. So I will be interested in pops on that one. Donut, same kind of thing. This could retrace back down to the low to mid 3s. So any pops, 450 to 5 up into here, like that for a short. Kirk, there's no real reason to watch this. It's just so illiquid. Probably take that off radar. Iova, this one is going into the main watch. This is another thick name. It's now up from $2 to over 4, so we're meeting that 100% threshold. Volume continues to speed up. We're going gap to gap to gap. If this loses 380 tomorrow under these wick lows, then it's likely the last point of defense. You can see all the volume up here that came in, 4+. So if we're gapping up within this wick, then I'd use prior day's highs as a guide. Until 380s confirms, then use highs a day, and red to green pops as a guide for a pullback towards 3-ish. So definitely a watch for a first red day. Similar setup to open, GoPro, Donut, Kirk, countless names. So just moving from one to the next. As I said on the watch list, and if any of you were in the Investors Underground room this morning, I hopped on the broadcast going over all my plans before market open. I do have a link down in the description if it says like where to find me or something like that. If any of you guys want access to IU, I hop on the broadcast a bunch when I'm fairly confident, and I don't hop on if I'm not confident in my trade ideas. So when I'm on there, I'm typically fairly convicted in what's going on. That's why I've been on there for the last couple weeks, because a bunch of these multi-day runners right into my wheelhouse, they've been working. So we'll see where we're at here, but possible first red day coming. And like I said on the watch list yesterday, I like when one name goes, the other one starts to play catch up, because then you trade this one name while the other one is setting up. And then the next sympathy, now you're trading the second one while the next sympathy is coming. So we had open. That was the main one that got all these moving. And you could, if you traded it long or you trade the parabolic short, and now I'm going to look for the backside bounce, and then you get GoPro. Now I'm trading this one's first red day while I'm covering the open. And then I'm trading this first red day with GoPro. Maybe GoPro pulls back another day, red day, and then I trade open's backside bounce tomorrow, and then maybe GoPro's backside bounce on Friday. People move from one to the next. Now we've had open's first red day. Within the last 2 days, on Monday and Tuesday, we had Donut and GoPro close below the open, haven't been red yet, but now we could trade first red days on these. Maybe Iova starts to speed up. There's nothing saying this has to be a first red day tomorrow, but Thursday, Friday, this is definitely a watch for gap up parabolic red moves. And now we move from those names into this one, and now the framework starts to play on this one while the other one's set up for their next patterns. That's what I love to trade. That's my bread and butter. I have high confidence in them. Golan recommends IU. Appreciate it. It's definitely a great room. I love being over there. So yeah, open, weak opens versus prior day's lows using 2 as a guide. I think this has a good backside bounce in it back towards 3. GoPro and DNUT, any pops into prior day's resistance could happen in pre, could happen off the open, not sure, but looking for pops. And then red moves, possible first red days here. Iova, higher the better. Looking for first red day overextension on this one. Another meme name. The mentions we're building on this one in the in Wall Street Bets and Reddit. There's a feature in Investors Underground that tracks the mentions on Twitter and Wall Street Bets and all that sort of thing. So I don't need to be flipping through Reddit to try and find the names. It tells me. And this was one of the ones that they were chasing today. So maybe retail volume comes out of it tomorrow. We'll see. UAVS, little breakout there. IXHL, this one's really breaking out. Not enough consolidation for me to to play this breakout. Didn't actually break there until after hours through 106. That was that multi-day breakout level, and then it did start going there in after hours up to the 140s. So this one here is, I think they've got a bunch of dilution on this thing. I'd have to look it up. Outstanding shares, 93 million. They got a little bit of cash. They've done some recent raises. Not a ton of dilution. They've been historically dilutive, but looks like a bunch of it has actually expired and whatnot. Got a couple ATMs out there. So not as dilutive as I remember. Their cashless warrants canceled if their ATM raised 12 million and paid the warrant holders. What is their excuse me. Let me see. Because I'm thinking we might have a little situation. Authorized. Yeah, 100 million authorized shares. So it's definitely notable. So they've diluted to the point that they've raised enough money in their ATM that a bunch of their warrants got canceled. They've increased their outstanding shares within the last couple months from like 20 million to 90 million, and their authorized share count's only at 100. So they've almost capped out the amount that they can dilute. I don't know if they have like a split vote or something of that sort coming up. I'll have to do a bit more research on this. Let's see here. Might take me a little bit longer than I want to spend on this stream, but I could see them like possibly having like a shareholder vote or something coming up. Maybe they want to approve a reverse split, and or maybe increase their authorized shares or something like that. So I'll have to read through the filings if any of you guys want to do some due diligence with that. There's probably some edge in it. But for now, looks like authorized shares are capped. So anyone who was short this, looking for the dilution and failed fall through, definitely on the wrong side. So no interest in shorting this right now. Ideally, it starts to run, maybe pulls like an FFIE. We've gone over that one in the past. It's up from 20 cents here to 140. But this could go a hell of a lot higher if they don't increase their authorized shares, because shorts will just start to trip over themselves. They do have some data coming out, I believe, by the end of the month. So it could be a sell the news event into the end of the month as well. So we'll keep this one on watch this week and into next week, but no immediate plans on it tomorrow. NVTS, this one's definitely notable for a big picture breakout. If you recall, this gap up and news was based on NVIDIA. It had some NVIDIA news, partnership with them. And so it's got a legit company behind it, has pulled back, starting to curl. We get those wicks on the daily that I like to look for. And this 910, it wicked through it briefly on a straight up spike the other day, but now is consolidating, couple inside days and building back. So a prior bar high break is a trigger that I would look for, maybe a break through 9, something like that, and then 916 is pretty close right nearby. So definitely worth watch on this one for that breakout. What made you decide to enter a starter at open already today? I saw Judah say it will be a 2-day on low volume setup, so I understand it can gap up massive. What gave it away? Maybe you already answered. No problem. Yeah, so basically the reason on the entry in simplest form is this has respected. It didn't go red the entire run-up until its first red day, and then it gapped down. And on those front side moves, see which chart shows it the best. But steady highs, steady highs, steady highs, steady highs, hard crack, close below VWAP. You get a pop up into prior resistance, steady fade, close below VWAP, steady fade, sideways, no longer fade, no longer uptrend. So if you zoom out to something like a higher time frame intradaily, you can see something like that. So like this was sideways, but it wasn't up enough. But you get this steady trend, steady trend, steady trend until something happens, and then you get steady trend, steady trend, steady trend, and now we're sideways. The first close above VWAP from the last 2 days. So the trend changed and its close changed. So that was the reason for my entry, and it's pulled back from 5 to 2. I mean, could it go lower to 150 tomorrow? Sure. I'll take my loss under 2 and I'll live. But when it pulls back from 5 to 2, with my first green day backside bounces, I'm looking for at least 1.5 red days, and we have now had 2 red days. So that fits the criteria. I'm looking for minimum dollar volume requirement. That fits the criteria. I'm looking for range for it to bounce into, which is back towards 3. That fits the criteria. No backside offerings. That fits the criteria. Now we got some sideways. So I'm just taking a risk reward entry that I think the odds are in my favor, and I've got a risk level. So whether it works or not, no idea. But I've got an entry, I've got a thesis, I've got a plan, I've got a risk. There's nothing to worry about. Take the entry, take the stop if it comes, and so be it. I'm hoping this thing gaps down tomorrow within like 230 to 2 so that I can really scale into this thing. I think it's a really good setup. Like when I was looking at ABVE, like this one here was a really good setup. It ended up happening overnight here, but this one set up really well. It was just a bit tougher to play. So open, we'll see. It's not a huge position. It's just I'm in there. I wanted to be involved. Warrants at 166 and 180s. Cannot blow through those levels rallying up. FFIE sounds exciting. Great explanation. Learned something new. You betcha. So Flashnet's talking about IXHL, and he's referring to some of their warrants. Yeah, and they're like that little note in their ATM from May says that their warrants get canceled once they use enough of their ATM. So I think that's probably a decent thing to keep in mind. Yeah, so I see the September warrants. There's only 500,000 of them. Who really cares? the 180 warrants. There's only 400,000 of them. And when this, like IXHL, I'm talking about, I mean, this is trading 300 million shares. A couple 100,000 warrants isn't going to do anything. It's mostly their ATMs, but I think what will stop it is either an increase in their authorized shares or that data comes out that this is running up into. I think those are the two things that will have to stop it. The reason for this run up needs to be put on pause. So why it's up, that needs to change, and then it'll pull back. Yeah. Kind of like open. Like my thesis on this one, when I was shorting it over here, that morning, the guy's name Eric, the pumper, he started posting other tickers after he's been pumping this thing all week, and then he starts talking about other tickers. So the whole reason for this move was because that guy had picked Carvana at the dead lows, and he called this move. So he's calling open the next Carvana and saying that this thing is going to $82. So everybody and their mother started buying this thing. It got out on Wall Street bets and whatnot. But now he's talking about other tickers. So the whole reason for this run-up was him, and now he's talking about other stocks. He went on live streams. It didn't get any positive reaction. So now who else is left there to buy? So the whole reason for the move up was gone, and now all that was left was the sell side. So I'll look for something like that on IXHL. This is running up into data towards the end of the month. It's got like an ease of movement because of the authorized share count. Sorry, a work thing. I'll get to it later. The joys of a business owner. Where was I? Yeah, so the whole reason for this, it's thin on supply side because its authorized share count is low. And then the whole reason for this run-up, I think, is a run-up into the news. There's probably a sell the news event. So it's either the news or the share count has to change. And then I think the music will stop on this. Until then, let it do its thing. How did you find out who was pumping open? Typically when I'm looking at these multi-day runners, the edge for the music to stop, so to speak, is you need to find out. I talked with Chris about this over like the last week. So he did a Sunday scan with Greg, LX21. I highly recommend go back on the Investors Underground YouTube and watch the portion where Greg is talking about BMNR. And it was basically figure out why the stock is running in the first place. And once that why changes, then there's a reason for the momentum shift. So GoPro, what was the reason for this? Was a sympathy trade to open and Wall Street bets chasing every name under the sun. But now open ran so well because everyone was buying this one stock. This one stock stopped because, one, it got ahead of itself, maximum dollar block reached, and retail had no money left to keep buying it. But also, this Eric guy started talking about other names, and therefore there was sell side. So now the sympathy to open is pulling back. So people move to GoPro, and then they move to Donut, and then they move to Kirk, and then they go to so many different names. Well, now they're not going to get 2 billion shares on any one name and get that squeeze again, because now they're spread out across multiple names. So now that why for the squeeze thesis has changed. So now that's changed. So to answer your question, how do I find out that there's a guy pumping it, is I see a multi-day runner, and Nate in the Investors Underground room right around here, he saw it really early, and he said, this looks like a Nikola 2.0. So I start trying to find out, why is this thing up? Why does he think this could run like Nikola? And then I start finding that there's this pumper on Twitter that had picked Carvana and now is pumping this thing. So now I see that why, And I did short it a couple times, but the Y, I need to wait for that to change before the high conviction pullback trade. So anytime I'm looking at these multi-day runners, I'm looking at the why it's up in the first place, and then looking for that why to change and shift. Nothing beats being a business owner working 24/7. Yeah, pretty much. Sometimes I just gotta mute the phone. I have my phone shut on Do Not Disturb at 10 o'clock, but it's still 8 o'clock and I'm getting messages. Before I hopped on this thing, I was still at work at like 7 o'clock. And it's only 8 o'clock right now, so super fun. I've got a crazy next few days too. Open for screen day tomorrow. Yep, I went over that one. I have a position currently on it. I bought into close and looking to add any weak opens. But if you want the further breakdown, I don't want to repeat myself too many times. I've gone over it a couple times, so you can watch the replay. But yeah, you betcha. You betcha, eh? Someone was asking for some first green day and long ideas yesterday, and just a matter of being patient, and then there we go. Clients calling in the middle of the night, my absolute favorite. Yeah. As if like their job is the most important thing you have going on in your life. That's what they think. Had this one guy, his reno was like a $15,000 reno. It was the smallest little thing, couple moldings, some flooring getting changed and stuff. And the most high maintenance client you could ever think of. Calling me back. There was this warrant. Is this under warranty? Is that under warranty? Oh, the paint's cracking. It was in the middle of winter at like we were negative 15 degrees Celsius. Of course paint's going to crack. It's below freezing temperatures. Paint's made out of water. Of course it's going to crack. Small, but then I can do a reno that's 500,000 and those clients will send you the check and see you later. They won't ask anything. It's ridiculous. None of them watch my live stream, so I can rant about them. So, yeah, to wrap up, to conclude, I've got some, obviously some other things to tend to now this evening. So I will wrap this up here and do a brief review. Open, first green day, backside bounce. GoPro and Donut pops into prior day's resistance. First red days, they haven't gone red yet. Iova, higher the better. First red day, tomorrow, Friday, something like that. NVTS, breakout through that 9 level. And then IXHL, wait for that Y to shift. And until then, let it do its thing. So that's what I got. Let's look to trade them all tomorrow. Stick to those plans. I will see some of you in IU in the morning, and the rest of you, I'll catch you on the next video. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for joining. Peace.